Life's too short to be someone you're not, but are you being your true self as a teacher? You see, sometimes students and other staff can be a bit mean or judgmental, and that might discourage us from being who we actually are. But this can make the teaching job way less fun and fulfilling. So in today's video, I'll be talking through 4 ideas and approaches to be more authentically you in your classroom. Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Dear Teachers, the weekly show here at Mr. and Mrs. Social Studies designed to help you promote self-care and work-life balance in the teaching profession. I'm your host, Sarah, and this episode is especially personal to me because I definitely struggled my first year at both of the different schools I worked with being my true self. And what do you know, it turned out that those were my least favorite years of teaching, and I think the two really go hand in hand. When we're comfortable with who we are with our students, we are going to enjoy the profession a lot more. Of course, this is no easy feat, and there are different factors that might make us feel afraid to be our true selves. But my hope is after watching this video, if you don't currently feel like you're being your true self, that you know some ideas about how you can incorporate more of that within your teaching. Let's begin. I think the most important thing to start out with is to be honest and be open up front. Now, this can feel very scary because if you start off your year, or even if you haven't started your year this way yet, you still can. It's never too late. It can feel very scary to open yourself up to this and to really show your true self. It's super scary. However, when you're able to lay out your cards and really show the different parts of you to your students, I think overall it leads to them having more respect for you and also knowing more about what you're about. And you might find that there's different meaningful connections that can be formed because of what you shared. My 4th year of teaching wasn't the best. I had switched schools and struggled a lot. And I was trying a lot of different approaches to get a handle on my classroom management. So by the time year 5 rolled around, I was wanting some big changes. And so I did basically an extended version of the 2 truths and a lie activity. I have a link to the specific version I used in the description field of the video. I listed out all of these things that are true about me that I hadn't necessarily showed before. I publicly addressed that I was a YouTuber. I talked about being a vegan, different fears, different experiences that I've had, all these different things, 20 facts total, 10 were true, 10 were not. And the students not only had a lot of fun guessing which ones were true and which ones weren't, but it allowed me to just know everything's out there. Was I nervous for that lesson? Very much so. But having it out there made me feel so much better the rest of the year, and I think it gave me a chance to, be very comfortable with my students right away. If you haven't done this already in the school year, it's not yet too late. You can totally have these fun get to know you type of activities that happen at any point. Idea number 2 here is to not be afraid to repel students. In the past, I've totally fallen prey to wanting to be liked by my students. However, the thing is, teaching is not about being liked, it's about doing what's right for the kids and helping the kids as much as you can. That's the big idea. And the thing is, whenever someone is their true self, there's many people who really respond well to that and love them, and there's people who really dislike them. And that's okay, that's life. You are going to have students who love you and students who dislike you, and that's okay. Don't try playing to the middle. Personally, I would much rather have half my students love me and half my students really dislike me than have all my students feel meh about me. Rather than try to be someone who is more popular or connecting with certain groups, just be okay that it is what it is. You are not going to be best buddies with all of your students, and that's okay. That's not what this arrangement is supposed to be about. You weren't hired to be their friend, you were hired to be their teacher. And the best part is, even if someone dislikes you, if you are being your authentic self, they will likely have more respect for you because you're being who you actually are. And you never know, sometimes students that you think you don't really get along with or that you don't mean much to, you actually realize later that you had more of an impact than you thought, which is super fun. Idea 3 is to show more of your personality and interest in the classroom. What are your key interests and parts of your personality, and how can you connect those back to your classroom? Interest is pretty easy. If you love travel, Have some travel themed items in your classroom. If you're a big fan of a certain sports team, bring those items into the classroom. Make it feel not only like a more fun place for yourself, but have your physical space be like a manifestation of what matters to you. And then students can also learn more about you from that perspective. Also, if you're someone who's super sarcastic and your students are a little bit older, sometimes the younger grades don't always get sarcasm, then totally use the sarcasm in your classroom. And if you're not that way, you don't have to. If you're a little self-deprecating sometimes, that's fine. If that's something you want to bring in there, that's cool too. If you're super giddy and excited about things, like that's kind of my personality with teaching, then incorporate it. So really don't shy away from what makes you you and bring it into your classroom. And step number 4 is to be vulnerable. This part can feel really scary, but if you are struggling with something, or you're having a rough day, or there's something else going on, let your kids know. Whether it's a high or low moment, sharing things with our students builds that connection. And if you're more likely to open up and share things with your students, you'll actually find that your students are more likely to share things like that with you. And to have that kind of relationship where you can really support one another is amazing. You might have heard the phrase before with teaching, leave your baggage at the door, meaning whatever problems you are dealing with, forget about them while you're at school because you're going to be busy. But I don't necessarily buy into that. Obviously, there's a lot that distracts us when we're at school from our own personal lives just because it's pretty busy. You've got a lot of kids who depend on you and are asking you questions, but sharing that and letting students know what's going on, I think is a lot more impactful. Not only does it show that you trust your students and you've got that relationship, but they want to help support you, as well as it's, I think, important for them to see examples of people going through things in a healthy way. What kind of message does it send if we tell people, I know you're struggling, but check it at the door. We don't want to deal with that here. Repress it. That's not really the healthiest approach, I don't think. And of course, it can be good news too. My husband and I bought our house, this condo, last year during the school year. And so I would fill students in a little bit on the process. We put an offer in, we didn't get the first place we wanted. We got this place, we moved. So it was really fun to share those positive moments too. But don't be afraid to be vulnerable and open. And I don't know about you, but I have always seen if I'm having a rough day and I'm expressive to that to the kids and they can see it and feel it, their behavior is so much better. So I think it can also help with classroom management too. If you're like, hey, look guys, this happened, I'm not doing great today, or I don't feel good today, they usually rise to the occasion. This is definitely not an easy topic, but I'm hoping you can incorporate some of these ideas with your students. I am also curious, have you ever struggled with not feeling like you're your true self with your students? I'd love to hear from you in the comments of this video. We'll see you next week for episode 4 of Dear Teachers. Bye.